Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Foundry Virtual Events. I am really excited to be here today. Today, we got Freddy Chávez Olmos with us. Freddy is the creative director for the artificial intelligence at Boxel Studio. And today, we will go through how he created the horror short film Bye Bye on a virtual production shot in just 2 hours. And with me, I've got my colleague Adam. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dennis. I'm Adam. I'm product manager for machine learning at Foundry, and so I'm very excited to be here to chat to Freddy. And here he is. So this is Freddy, and if you're not familiar with Freddy, Freddy has over 17 years of VFX experience across films, TV, and commercials. He was born in Puebla, Mexico, and studied initially special effects makeup in Los Angeles, and was mentored by the very legendary Dick Smith of The Exorcist fame. So, working in visual effects in Vancouver, Freddy worked on productions by Guillermo del Toro, Neill Blomkamp, Robert Rodriguez, Tim Burton, and Christopher Nolan, and has been part of Oscar and Emmy-winning VFX studios, including Double Negative, ILM, Method Studios, Wētā, Image Engine, FuseFX, Scanline VFX, got all the hits. Freddy's part of the Directors Guild of Canada, and he's currently, as Inés already said, creative director for artificial intelligence at Boxel Studios. Welcome, Freddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I think today we're going to talk about your short film Bye Bye, and for people who haven't seen this already, it's currently doing the rounds at the film festivals. So we can't show you the whole thing, but we will have a look at the VFX breakdown shortly. But first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about how this production came to be?
Yeah, so this was an interesting experiment because I got the opportunity to direct a short film and had to come up with a script, or pitch an idea for a script that will be shot on a virtual production stage. So I came up with a concept of, they gave us two options. One was a virtual environment in a subway station, and another one was a rooftop patio. So we had to create a script around those virtual environments. So I had an idea about a urban legend I heard back in Mexico about a subway station. So that's how I based my main story. And then the rest, the Directors Guild in Canada selected 8 filmmakers to shoot their short films, and I was one of the lucky ones. Ones that I had, the ones that I knew was selected, I had to come up with how could we shoot all this in 2 hours, because that was one of the rules in this in the shooting of these projects, that they would give you only 2 hours to shoot it. So it was quite challenging, but it was a really good learning experience. I had experience on the virtual production side only in post-production, as many on this call. We were exposed only on the post-production side, and my background is in compositing, so a lot of what you do in post is mainly like fixes or replacements of things that went wrong on set. So for me to be on the director side and also working with actors and the cinematographer, I had to kind of come up with ideas how to solve these issues on set. The cool thing was that we had all this talented crew and all these toys to play with, but also we were limited with the 2-hour window. So for me, because it was a horror story, I had to, one of the proposals in my script was to have this old age makeup. My background is in makeup effects, so I kind of knew that I couldn't achieve it in the 2-hour window, even if I had a makeup crew there. So I decided to approach it in post-production. And first, it was going to be an approach just to enhance the makeup on set. But then the more I was exploring the tools with CopyCat and other generative stuff, I was like, well, maybe should I just shoot it as it is and just deal with it in post-production. And I was quite surprised with the results. So this is why I ended up using CopyCat along with other tools, but it was quite exciting. Even in the pitching stage, when I proposed the idea of doing this with the help of some machine learning tools, they were a bit skeptic the people who were financing the film. But then once that I showed them some testing, and they were like, okay, you know what you're doing. So I think that's what that was one of the reasons they gave me the financing, because they knew that I could achieve it, and they kind of had a little bit of a peace of mind that I had this background in visual effects as well.
Yeah, I've seen those tests. The ones in the hospital, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look great. Actually, maybe this is a great time to jump to the VFX breakdown. Let's take a look. Love that. So feel free to submit your questions, everybody. But in the meantime, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But in the meantime, Fredy, could you tell us a little bit about how you use Leonardo to produce those ground truth frames that you then trained CopyCat with?
Yes, back then that was July last year, so it's still early stages of this this technology about generative, especially with all the use of ControlNet. For me, that was one of the things that got me into getting more into the machine learning and AI, just because I knew the potential. I saw a test way back well, it's not way back, it's January last year, so it wasn't that long ago. But even more than a year ago, these tests, which they showcase generative being used along with ControlNet, or even with tools that back then were kind of the tools I was using before I knew about CopyCat, which was EV-Synth. For me, that was it really was a way for me to extend some of my knowledge in makeup effects and digital effects. So once that I started working with Leonardo, when I knew about these tools that they had in their platform, with all these ControlNet options, and along with training your own models in the platform. For me, that was a really cool way to use it in production, or in post-production in this case. So that was the first use I started just doing on enhancements on makeup effects that I was working on just on single frames. But then when I realized, maybe I can generate just keyframes that then I can take to Nuke and use CopyCat just to get all these in-betweens. And then to me, that was kind of like, once that I started doing some tests, and I showcased one of them, I remember back at SIGGRAPH with Foundry at the booth, just with one girl being transformed into a zombie, just with makeup using Leonardo as well. For me, that was like, oh, cool. Maybe I can use the same idea, same workflow for a short film. So that's how it came about, the idea of using Leonardo along with CopyCat.
Nice. And so I've seen in some of the articles I read that you used a customized dataset function in Leonardo. What does that involve?
Yeah. So I never thought I was gonna use any of my makeup experience because I was already so involved in post production. But now that all these tools are coming up and you have access to training data, for me it's like, what should I just use all my makeup data that I have just to train a model and then generate on top of that and make variations of that? And that has been working great for me, because then I get to use a lot of the other skills that I was just using for Halloween these days, just to put makeup on my children. But now for me, this is great way to use skills that I was missing. I was missing out in the past. So now with this accessing these training models that you can do in Leonardo and along other places as well, it was a great way for me to expand on that. And now with Leonardo and the way I've been training is just creating concepts based on stuff that I've done in the past. So in the case of the old age makeup of the woman, so in the breakdowns, I've been a huge fan of old age creations. Like even in the past when I started, what got me into horror was a lot of transformative or creature work based on live characters. Like for me, The Exorcist was one of a huge influence. So to me, I started to kind of recreate a lot of that in my makeup days. But now, as you saw in the short film, it's the same thing. Like just having this demon, but it's still very grounded to something that is an old age makeup basically, but just enhanced with other stuff like clear white eyes and scars and other stuff. But then it's very based on reality. So for me, it's something that I'm really focusing on these days right now. It's just how can I leverage from all this technology and also with traditional practical stuff, and then just create something new.
Yeah, I love that you were able to guide the generative model with your practical experience and get, I guess, the outcome you were looking for. Really effective.
I want to ask a couple of questions that we got in the chat, if that's okay. One is actually about the pre-planning. So how was the pre-planning for the shot? Yeah, that was just one of them. Then I'll jump to a couple of other questions if that's fine.
The prepping for the shot with the generative. Oh yeah. It was quite easy because I'd done already some previous tests about just creating generative on top of live action plates. And for me, I think the future of machine learning and AI and all these technologies is that the less intrusive it can be, the better. So for me, the less tracking markers I can have on set, and it's the same way I sell it to other directors or other clients. Like I think we're just trying to give you enough flexibility on set, so you don't need to worry about any of the tech stuff. So I wanted to have a proof of concept of that. So that's why I used the short film in a way as a showcase to prove myself that okay, I can do it, and we can do it in a larger scale as well. So that's why I asked the makeup artist on set, don't worry about putting putting anything on the face except just for the teeth. I think that's the only enhancement all the makeup they did on set. So for me, it was easier for generative to recognize like the rotten teeth to be already in a way discolored. But other than that, everything else, it was quite easy just to recognize the features for the faces and the nose and eyes. As we know, there's a lot of tools now coming out even for facial capture. So a lot of that is going to be helping us in the future, because now we're going to be able to extract geometry out of 2D plates. So that's quite exciting as well, because right now the limitations, but even back then in July last year, were creating consistent shots in a sequence. So there's a lot of tweaks that we had to do in post-production to make it work, especially for rotations and also wire shots, that you wouldn't recognize the face as easily as a close-up. But now with all this new technology about just recognizing faces, and even the new ones that are coming out about for lip syncing and changing languages. That works with the same technology, just to recognize the face, the nose, the eyes, and the mouth. And then for us, at least for me, who are really into de-aging and aging especially, I think that's going to be a great tool to look forward in the future.
Very interesting take. Got another question. That's fine, from the chat. So it's one comment. So cool breakdown. Can you explain how did you do the head turn at the end, and how many ground truth keyframes you used for this one? How were they generated, and how did you keep them consistent? Thanks.
Yeah, that was a really good test, just to do that consistency I was talking about. We had a really good artist working on that shot. Her name is Andrea Verdugo. I wanted to give a shout out to her because she spent a long time. I was creating all these keyframes in Leonardo, and I was just giving her a bunch of options just to see what would work. Because I think with the challenge, more than having a consistent rotation of the head, it was more about where generative was placing things and making it all seamless. So sometimes the eye was lower than the other one, or sometimes the mouth, especially when you have moving lips or blinking eyes as well. So in a way, I generated a bunch of keyframes, and then I went into Photoshop and tried to kind of line them up and then see where we was failing, and then fix a bunch of the edge work, and then send those to her, and then she will just train the copycat model with us in mind. So it was a lot of back and forth, but in the end it worked out because she understood that this was something new and we're just testing. But once that we cracked the recipe, it was easier to do the same for other shots. So it was quite exciting once that we found that sweet spot. And then a lot of the work that was left, it was mainly about getting all the edges to work, and the mouth, the lips, and the teeth just to line up as well. But that was I mean, I always tell the artists, like, don't worry if it doesn't work 100%. All these things that we're trying to do with new tools, whenever it fails, just go back to traditional. And that's what a lot of the artists did. And it was a really great test, this short film, because that was the task, and it happened during the strikes. So I was lucky at Boxel to have a lot of access from like a lot of the staff that were around, and they wanted to learn new things. So for us, at least for me, it was a great time to teach them all these new tools, and for them to learn, because they were eager also to learn. So one of the proposals to the studio for me was like, let's do this short and let's use it as a training tool for the artists. So the task was like, use as much as you can CopyCat and all these new machine learning tools, and once that you see that they fail, then just go back to traditional. Like with the roto we're doing with modnet or CopyCat doesn't work, let's just fix that in just with traditional roto, and that's what they did. So it was really cool because they saw the potential, and also they saw how much of that they got quick and fast, but then how much of that work was more like technical stuff that they went back to fix, or if one of the hands wasn't recognized, then they had to go back and roto that manually. But at least they got 50% of the process there with all these tools, and then the rest, it was a lot of the traditional tools as well.
So it sounds like to generate the ground truth frames, they were a little bit inconsistent, and you had to do some paint work in Photoshop. Is that right?
Yeah. In some cases, it worked great. Like that, some of the ground truth frames traveled right out of the Leonardo with ControlNet. We use them right onto the training for CopyCat. But for that rotation, that shot specifically, that one, yeah, required some manual work and warping just to get it all to sit perfectly. And for that shot, I remember there were like 5, I think, ground truth frames. So eyes closed, mouth open, head to the side, head to the front, and there was another one I'm missing. But yeah, mainly those five keyframes.
And roughly how long, do you remember, like how long you were having to train CopyCat to be able to transfer that effect?
Yeah, so that was another challenge because that was in July last year, June, July. So the new version of Nuke was out yet, and we were just rendering in our local machines at Boxel. So for us, it was a little bit unfair for some of the artists who didn't have a powerful graphics card. So for these specific shots, we tried to give those to assign those to artists who have more powerful machines. But yeah, I think that one itself, because we did so many iterations, so we would normally just decide on a couple of on a few frames how it would look, and then we'll just leave it overnight, and then the next day we'll review. So that was our method, just to keep it all going.
Nice. Yeah, for those people who don't know, so in Nuke 14.1 and 15, we have distributed training. So if you had a render farm, you can hand off your training into the farm and not have to sit and watch it or leave it overnight. And other performance improvements too. So you mentioned ModNet there. There's a lot of people I encounter who haven't heard of Cattery. So Cattery is our library of open source machine learning models that we have converted into CAT files and bundled up so that you can use them. We're in the process of adding some more models, so we're just working on a couple of new ones, and we're hoping to get some user submissions. So if anyone has any models that they've converted, please get in touch. We want to list those there as well. But it's a great way to go and try out some new tools.
Actually, now that you were saying something about Cattery, there are a couple of questions about CopyCat.
Sorry, before we do that, so I just wanted to ask Freddy, other than ModNet, which is the human matting model, have you tried had any success with any of the other models in there?
Yeah, our first approach always for Roto is just using ModNet, just to see how much of it, especially when things are not shot on green screens or blue screens. So in this case, because it was a virtual set, we used it a lot just so we see how much of that we could do. And also, one thing to mention about the short is that one of the things I wanted to do in post or on DI is just to highlight a lot of the costumes, so make it more red or fix the skin tones, things like that I couldn't do on set because of the time constraints. So I work with Andy Gomez, our post-pro supervisor, but also he does a lot of our grading, and he asked for, like, I mean, as any other traditional pipeline or any traditional film, if we could send him all our mats that we were doing for Roto, for compositing. So what I decided, because I love some of the shots didn't require any VFX, so some of them it was just a DI mat that we needed to generate. For me, it was let's just use ModNet as much as we can, and whenever it breaks, we'll just train CopyCat just to get it all to work for those shots. So it was quite cool a process too, because we had to deal with hair and a lot of motion blur as well. So it was a really good experience for some of the artists who were familiar with all the prep work, but not so much with CopyCat and ModNet. So yeah, still to in production, now that we getting into production, it's for us it's always first approach to use ModNet, just for lighting dailies. I think that's great to generate some quick and dirty mats just for lighting dailies or any layout purposes.
When you're using CopyCat for matting, have you tried using the initial weights, the human matting initial weights?
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that's been also really good use for that, especially with because now we're working with similar sequences or similar shots where it understands already what the character looks like. So yeah, it's been very useful.
Great. Yeah, in our tests it speeds up by like an order of magnitude, so it's definitely worth using. Anais, you had some questions.
Yeah. Thanks. So it was about CopyCat. It's two of them. I'll start with the first one. So do you have any tips for CopyCat training? Like cropping on smaller areas or working in smaller resolution, etc.?
Yeah, we for this film we used it was all delivered in 2K, although all the plays were shot on 4K. So we did some testing on 4K and then 2K, and yeah, it did make a difference, the sizing, and also the way sometimes just to help understand the shapes, especially with the hair, which is also one of the challenges when it's a lot of motion blur and things like that. Um, I feel like sometimes it's easier just to get a really good core mat and then just get those finer details just with additive or any other keying techniques. But yeah, I just for I think for any particular shots where you're dealing with those issues like even motion blur, I think sometimes you have to go back and fix them with a traditional instead of trying to get it all perfect just with copycat training. So I would recommend to be open to that. Like it won't give you 100% what you want, but it's gonna give you sometimes close results, or even unexpected things, like when you have a character that you see it in see him or she in a few shots, then you will, I think some of that trained model, it will help you right when you just plug it in, and then you will see like 50% already recognized, and colors too. Like I think it helps a lot when you have people with the same colors, like wearing the same clothes. So for us that was at least for the short film, it was very useful because the characters have very particular characteristics, so it was easier for copycat to recognize at least some of the features that were already on those plates.
The good news is we've just put together a masterclass of tips and tricks for using copycat, and it has just gone live on the website. We'll share details at the end, and you can have a sneak peek for those people watching now. We haven't publicized it anywhere else yet, so stay tuned for the link at the end.
Thanks. Okay, I'll go for another copycat question, if that's fine. This is probably more something that you can request. So do you have any tips for, no, sorry, what features does Freddy think copycat needs to get to make this easy, or the UI more intuitive, perhaps?
Yeah, sometimes something that I learned only when I was at the SIGGRAPH was that there was a contact sheet, right? Like that is something that maybe I wasn't aware of, and I think just I guess it's more like you being use the tool as much as you can just to start like experimenting with different ideas or different ways to do the same things. But I think for me it was just getting online and finding more information. Even back then, even now, when you go online, it's very limited the information that you get out. So for me, just getting onto forums or getting in conversations with people who have been using this tool more in production was really important, because I could ask them what were some of the issues I was having, and then what were the recommendations or the workarounds. So yeah, I think that I would recommend just getting more into those conversations, or getting into forums where you can ask some of these questions as well.
Okay, any more questions, Ines? No? It's all right, I've got more, don't worry.
Okay, you go for it.
So I don't think people necessarily realize that copycat's available in Nuke Indie, non-commercial, and the Education Collective. Do you have any advice for people who are just starting out their career about using these tools and leveling up?
Yeah, as you say that, because now you can use it for free for training purposes or educational purposes. So I would totally recommend just downloading the version and just getting familiar with the tools. And now that there's this is now a year after I finished that short, well, not a year after, like a few months after, there's a lot more information. It's more accessible to other people, just to go on YouTube and find cases where you can find solutions for some of the same questions that you have. So I will encourage that, just to download and just go online and find some of these people who are already putting tutorials or tests. And same on you'll be surprised how much information is out there on LinkedIn and Twitter and Discord. That Discord is now getting is one of my favorite places to go, just to ask questions and get to know new network of people who are also into this machine learning and AI tools. So I will encourage people to open an account there.
Nice. And have you used CopyCat for? So I mean, you've used it for matting and the sort of digital makeup and style transfer in this short, but have you used it for anything else in other productions?
Yeah, that's something that because now working with the comp team, for me at least, is something that we've been testing in different scenarios, not only on this makeup or generative stuff. So right now there are new tools coming out that are quite exciting, and some people in the call might be familiar already, but Vivo Switchlight, that's another place that I've been testing a lot of these tools as well. Just so thin relighting is going to be a big one this year, just to be able to do that, and using CopyCat just to get you work around some of the issues that right now is because of the consistency or the flickering and some of the stuff that is limited because some of the softwares are still in beta. But I think that's one big one that I'm quite excited just to test in production right now. And then there are a bunch of besides paint outs and just keeping consistent paint work as well. That's another one.
Yeah, I really like Beeble. We spoke to them. They have a developer license now, so they're building a new plugin. So hopefully it'll get even easier to use that. But for people who haven't seen it, it's I think it's just a web tool at the moment, but you can upload your picture and it will extract normals and wrinkle maps and give you enough that you can then relight people in your scene. But hopefully coming to Nuke soon. Okay, back onto the virtual production side of things. So I think you said you used Unreal for the set extension. What was the process for rendering that out? And have you tried the Nuke Unreal Bridge at all?
Yeah, that was done to the Lumos stage, which is the place where we shot that here in Vancouver. They built all the assets, and that was based on the requirements that they ask us to do for our scripts, which is decide on which location you want to use, the subway station or the rooftop patio. So they built those in-house there. But then a cool thing was that they gave us access to all those assets later on. So if we wanted to extend our set, or we wanted to do more interesting stuff in post-production, we will have access to the same assets and the Unreal scene. So that's what we did as well at Boxel. We took that scene, and then we started to break it down in pieces, and then just make it more interesting. Some of the shots that maybe because of the size of the LED screens that were limited, because I was shooting anamorphic, then I could use some of those assets just to extend some of the sets, as well as having access to put stuff in the foreground or create even new shots. Like I have one shot that was completely CG, and that was just using the same assets that were built for the virtual production stage. And regarding the tool for Nuke, yeah, that's something that also I was testing in the short, where we were trying to bring in all that into Nuke, all the assets that we had for the virtual production stage. We didn't quite use it for the short, but it was part of our testing, and I can see potential for other productions later on. But for that specific short film, we just didn't have the time just to experiment more. But it's really cool. I think it's a really good tool to use.
Can I go with some questions from those?
Please.
Thank you. Okay, so there are like three. Let's see. I tried using Photoshop to create new backgrounds with fantastic results. When will it be possible to do the same things with entire sequences? I don't know if that's for you, Freddie. Like, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked quite often when I put out some of my tests with any new tools. And like, well, can I see it in motion? Of course, yeah, we're gonna get there. I don't think that things, the technology itself is quite there. Is because of the consistency, just to get everything to work in motion pictures. But then there's tools as well just to get a, and I think the way to solve this, I would normally use those to project stuff on 3D geometry and then just get the consistency just to work. And same thing with, I think, just using CopyCat just to create consistent keyframes that then you can use CopyCat just to create those in betweens as well. Or now there are tools also that are out there that you can test as well, like that, similar to Photoshop. And I saw one called ML in Painter, which is also another one for painting, and that was created by a compositor. So that's kind of cool to see community now coming up with ideas and tools. And same thing with Nuke Copilot, that also a friend of mine, Kevin Little, he's building things so you can connect to things like ChatGPT, and you can ask questions and build things. So it's quite exciting just to see all that being now incorporated into Nuke, instead of having all these tools that you have to go out, which in most of studios and companies they won't allow you to do. But if we can bring those in and integrate them into Nuke, I think that's kind of the goal.
Awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Alan Robinson, who makes mlinpainter.com. It's a great tool.
Okay, question for Adam. Does the Foundry plan on making Torch script easier and friendlier to use for integrating new research paper on machine learning and machine learning models into the category? Thanks.
So we plan to upgrade PyTorch hopefully soon, because that's one of the big limitations for getting some of the more recent models in. But I don't know how to make it easier. It is tough. There's one option, is that we have this project which we don't actively support anymore, but ML server, so people can have a remote computer running ML models and delivering that back over a network connection. So that's an easier way if you want to prototype something really on the cutting edge. But I think hopefully things get a little bit easier when we upgrade PyTorch in the coming months.
Great. Got more questions. So this should be a short one. Do you need to have a powerful machine to use CopyCat?
That's for me.
I don't know. Anyone? I don't mind. I can
give some quick answers. It will run on a CPU, and in fact, as of Nuke 15, it will run on a MacBook, as we've added metal performance shader support. So, I can do compositing with CopyCat on my MacBook. So it doesn't have to be a super high end. Of course, it trains faster, but mostly it's the cost of training rather than the inference process. That's still reasonably fast. If you have, like I say, if you're in a situation where you can't everyone in the studio can't have a high-end GPU, then distributed training might be the option, where you have a couple of machines that are set up for that with a good GPU, and then everybody else just has sort of normal commodity hardware. But Freddie, what was your setup?
Yeah, back then, even now, I'm working with a RTX 4090, but I think we tested CopyCat with other machines as well, and they didn't have as a powerful GPU. But I think, just as you say, like, just with those even minimal requirements, it will work. It's just depending on how long is the sequence and how big is the resolution of those plates.
Yeah, exactly. And you have options in CopyCat. So if you there are model sizes. If it's an effect which is sort of pixel effect and doesn't need a lot of context, you can use the small model, which will train much faster. If you've got a more complicated effect or something that you want to try and generalize over multiple shots, then you need to use a larger model. That will take longer, of course. But definitely try and use the initial weights to speed up that training time, because that can radically reduce the time it takes to get to the same result. And I have one other thing to mention. In the latest Nuke, we added multi-resolution training. So the way that works is it reduces the resolution in the first third to a quarter in the first third of training, and then 50% in the second third, and then full resolution in the last third. And we find that that gives you the same result, but in half the time. So it's that can be a big time saver too. Any more questions?
Yeah. Probably this one is back for Freddy. Does it make sense to still shoot with green screen or blue screen?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because with what I was talking about, relighting plates, and even last year we were trying to stay away from green screens and blue screens and getting more into virtual production for that purpose. But now I realize how much of that gets changed in post-production. Like some of the decisions, even, I mean, there are advantages because you still get some of the interactive and some of the great things about shooting in virtual production. But then also there are some decisions that are made in post that sometimes you end up just replacing the background as well. So in that regard, I feel like there's gonna be a time, I think it's gonna be soon, where blue screens and green screens are still gonna be relevant, because for these purposes of relighting plates or relighting characters, I feel as using a blue screen and green screens is a great way to use that technology, but also maybe lighting flat on set. So you're gonna end up relighting and you don't have yet a background that what's gonna be used in post, then you might as well just shoot on green screen or blue screen, and then just make sure that the DP shoots flat lighting, so you have more of that flexibility in post production. So yeah, so I will. It will really depend on the situation, but to me, green screens and blue screens are gonna be usable still.
Thank you. Adam, did you have any more questions that you want to ask?
I mean, definitely, but we'll be here all day if I ask all of them. Let me have a look. What am I going to ask you?
Okay, I can go with one.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think that there's a connection possible between CopyCat and Unreal Reader Node, or do those remain separate?
I mean, I'm sure you could build a workflow where you're taking the renders from Unreal and, maybe you want to use them to use CopyCat to upres it, or if you want to just render, I don't know, I need to give that some thought. I'm sure there is loads of great workflows you could build by combining those things. Any ideas, Freddy?
No, I haven't really thought about that, but yeah, like I think that's something just to keep in mind, because it's been gonna be like I think between Unreal and CopyCat, it's gonna be more ways that they talk to each other in a easier way.
There is another comment from the same person. I was thinking in terms of set extension. I think that could be very interesting, though. Cool. Adam, we probably got time for one more questions. I don't know if you had anything else in mind.
Sorry, is there any in the chat? If not, let me know. No? Okay. What tools are you most excited to try or test out in your next short or production?
There's a bunch of stuff I wanna try, just because I've been testing, but haven't put an actual showcase of those tools in a production. And I'm lucky to be now in this position at Boxel, where I propose come up with new tools that are out there and try to bring them in and test them. And first, I work the way I work is I just test it in a shot or two shots, and then once that I see, okay, there's potential to use it in a sequence, then I move on to do that. But I think the best way, even just from a client perspective, just to sell, okay, this is something that we can use, and it went through all the protocols and security and ethical and everything. Then for me, is to shoot an actual short film, just to make sure that it's bulletproof. So for me, the next thing to do is, because I'm also interested in real-time engine and with all these real-time tools that are coming out as well for generative, I would love to do, and it's something I'm working on already. It's a full CG short film done in Unreal, using some of these tools as well, leverage from all these tools that we can do as well in real time. So yeah, this is going to be, that's something that's exciting and something I'm currently working on.
Awesome. Can't wait to see what you make. Thanks so much for joining us, Fredy. It's been great to talk to you. I hope people have enjoyed this, and if you have more questions, I don't know, maybe can you still post them after it finishes? I don't know. But please like and subscribe, because we've got a bunch more YouTube lives coming up. So the next one, Anais, can you tell us about VFX?
Yeah, one of the next panels that we have is with VFX. So we'll be having the lead compositor and the VFX com supervisor. I do have the notes on that. Vahik Asoyan and Max Alexander. That they will work us through the work that they did for the dark drama No Escape for Paramount Plus, and basically how they used that, how they converted a project that was supposed to be full 2D into one that needed full CG. It's quite interesting.
Nice. So that's February the 29th, I think, which is the leap day. And then the week after, we have a YouTube live with two of our machine learning developers that are going to do a Q&A about CopyCat and everything else, because we have this masterclass that has just gone live on our Foundry Learn, and it will be coming onto YouTube shortly. And this is from the developers, sort of the tips and tricks for preparing your data set and trying to get the most out of the training settings and really understanding how it works. And I think, I'm really excited to have that live and share that knowledge, and hopefully people can prepare their questions and join us on the 7th of March for a YouTube live with Mairead and Joanna. That'll be really fun.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Fredy, and thank you, everyone, for the questions.
Thank you so much, and hope everyone jumps onto Catery and CopyCat soon.